Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer Maker, and today I'm teaching all about the tools, supplies, and accessories you can use with your Cricut Explore cutting machine. This is the Cricut Kickoff Lesson 2, and we're going to go through all of these fun things together one by one. We have a lot of things here. Now in Lesson 1 of Cricut Kickoff, you saw that your basic Cricut Explore cutting machine comes with a few things beyond the machine and the power cord. In the box of the Cricut Explore Air 2 was, come back here to get this, a blue machine mat, some cardstock, and a pen. And in the Cricut Explore Air 3, the Cricut Explore 3, we had a test sheet of vinyl that we did our project on, and then 3 full-size sheets. Now, that's what we had that came in our Cricut. But there's really a lot of other tools, supplies, and accessories that you can use with your Cricut Explore, and understanding them and knowing when to use them goes a long way toward making what you love with your Cricut. Now, before we get too far, I want to remind you about my free Cricut Kickoff printable handbook that goes along with these lessons. You can download it right now at CricutKickoff.com. Just register for the class and you will get the handbook. It is free, there's no strings attached. I'll be referring to it as we go along during today's lesson. There's a whole section on tools and supplies in there, and you can keep track of everything that you have or that you learn about today. So please pull up a chair here in my craft studio and we will get started. So as you can see, I have both my Cricut Explore 3 here that we unboxed together yesterday, and my Cricut Explore Air 2 up there on the shelf, and I have their basic supplies here. So in addition to the things that come in the boxes, right? So again, we have a blue light grip mat, a few pieces of cardstock, and a pen that came in the Cricut Explore Air 2. And then in the Cricut Explore 3, we had this sample piece of smart vinyl and a full-size sheet of smart vinyl, a full-size sheet of iron-on vinyl. The color does vary, and a piece of smart cardstock, right? Full-size sheets, and then 1 piece of transfer tape that's for using with the smart vinyl. So different things came with your Explore. It's even possible that you've got a bundle that came with some more things, but these are the basic things that come with each of these 2 different Cricuts. And then, of course, you know, we had a power cord and our USB cable, but inside each Cricut was our fine point blade. I'm going to open up this one so you can see. So installed when it came is your fine point blade right there in clamp B, right? So all of the Cricut Explorers have this. This is the standard fine point blade that you'll use for most of your projects, right? And it goes right there in clamp B. And that's where we're going to begin today, talking about our blade, because that's arguably the most important thing. So the Cricut Explore actually has 4 different blades it can use. There's the basic blade, the one that came with your machine. The blade is made from German carbide steel and it's very sharp, so always handle it with care. This is the blade that you're going to use most of the time. It's in either a silver or gold housing. The housing is the tube part that you see here. You'll use the fine point blade for cutting cardstock, vinyl, and really most materials. Okay, now there is another one, and it is a deep cut blade. This allows you to cut thicker materials. The deep cut blade has a steeper blade angle at 60 degrees, and it's made of a harder, more durable steel. I use the deep cut blade to cut cardboard, chipboard, magnets, basswood, balsa wood, felt, and foam sheets. So this is the deep cut blade, okay? The blade in the pink housing is the fabric blade. But here's the thing. Even though it says it's specifically for bonded fabric, I don't actually think there's any difference between this and your regular fine point blade, other than the color. But if you want to keep your blade separate from your other blades that you use to cut paper or vinyl, or you just like the color pink, you can get this one. Otherwise, just know that you can use your fine point blade that came with your Cricut to cut bonded fabric on your Explore 2. And then finally we come to this one here in the blue housing. This is not actually a blade as much as a tool. This is the foil transfer tool, and it comes with 3 interchangeable tips, right there, fine, medium, and bold. The foil transfer tool is used to transfer Cricut's foil transfer sheets onto your projects. You can learn more about the foil transfer tool on my blog and on my YouTube channel. It's really awesome. Now, it's important to note that while there are other Cricut blades, there is the knife blade, the rotary blade, and so on. You cannot use these in your Cricut Explorer, nor can you use a Cricut Joy blade in your Cricut Explorer. It's also important to know that you can get replacement blades as needed. For example, I'll show you what they look like because this is important. Here's our blades. This is what a replacement blade looks like. It has a white cap, almost always, right? You want the one with a white cap. You want the one with this packaging. The premium fine point blade. This is the best one to use, okay? If it's out of its packaging, typically it has a white cap, right? So if it's out, like I have one out right here, this is a replacement blade. So if it's just sitting somewhere, look for the white cap, okay? Red is also typically okay. Be careful of the ones with the gray cap. They are made for older Cricut machines, and they're really too long for the Cricut Explorer. You want the premium blades for the best cuts, all right? If you don't use the right blade for your Cricut, it may be cutting too deep. So be careful to check your packaging when you're buying replacement Cricut blades. There are different Cricuts out there, older ones, and so you might not, you have to be sure to get the right one. One more thing we need to be careful of is storage. So remember that you can use your accessory tray, right, to store blades. And there's a magnetic strip right here that you can keep your blades on, right? See? So I can open and close that, and it doesn't like fall all over the place. So if you have some blades, you can just keep them right here to keep them from rolling all over the place. Now, eventually you may have too many blades for the accessory compartment, or it's already filled up with something else, like, candy or something. It's been known to happen. And you'll need a different method of storage. So I have one that I want to show you. If it's at some point you just might need something like this. So this here, oops, I need to show you the right way. This here is a tool and blade and storage holder that Greg designed for me and 3D printed on his 3D printer. We made this on the Prusa 3D printer. I have the free files for anyone who might want to use this, know someone with a 3D printer. If you don't have a 3D printer, Cricut does make a blade holder that is pretty awesome. And I'll show you that one too. But this one is cool. The files are free if you want to make it. It's got a little drawer. I keep things in it. And I'll just set this off to the side because we'll probably refer to that. Cricut looks like this. It's actually pretty neat. It's like transparent so you can see all your things. Your blades go in the top like this, right? And they kind of up here. And then if you have a maker, and we're not talking about the maker today, but if you upgrade to a maker, you can actually put its tools in the bottom here. So this is cool. I think it's better for the maker than it is for the Explorer, but it's still a pretty nifty tool holder. This is my favorite though, because Greg made it for me. Okay, so those are our blades. Now, a lot of people ask me how often I need to replace my blades. And I actually don't have to replace them almost ever. Instead, I keep them clean. And that lasts years and years and years. I only have this one so I can show you what a replacement blade looks like. That's how infrequently I actually change my blades. So to keep my blades clean, I use aluminum foil. So I do. So just regular household aluminum foil. This is well loved from my kitchen. And all you do is you just take off a sheet like this and you ball it up like this, nice and tight like this. You're going to save this. This is a multi-use aluminum foil ball. And then we'll take the blade out of the clamp So we just open up the clamp and pull it out just like this. And then what we do is, if you push down on the top part right here, this is how you normally change your blade if you need to. Occasionally you will need to if it gets nicked or something like that. And that is possible. I'm going to hold this up for you so you can see what it looks like. See, it's just like a little blade that comes out. So what you want to do is take your aluminum foil ball, very carefully of course, and poke it into there like this. Don't poke your finger, be careful, 30 to 50 times. And this will clean any glitter or adhesive or gunk or oxidation off your blade. It works really, really well. I've been doing it for years, and as a result, I don't need new blades. So I highly recommend this. If this seems weird to you, you can also use rubbing alcohol. However, I prefer this method. I think this works really well. And I also recommend when you're, I'm going to show you right here. Oops, that's a little bit, hang on a second. Let me scooch my camera over a little bit. There we go. So right here, this front tray, I like to keep my aluminum foil ball right there. So it's always handy. And when you cut things that have a lot of adhesive or glitter, it's a good idea to clean your blade in between so that you have nice clean cuts. And that is one of my biggest tips that I can share with you. All right, so that's our blades. Next, our mat. So if you got the Cricut Explore Air 2, you got a blue light grip mat. If you got the Cricut Explore 3, you did not come with a mat. However, you can use mats, okay? So it just didn't come with one because they chose not to put one in. So let's talk about the different mats that you can use. Because these are machine mats specifically. Machine mats are adhesive covered mats that hold our materials in place while we cut them on the Cricut. We call these machine mats to distinguish them from other mats like the self-healing mat on my desk here, which I'll tell you about later. There was one machine mat included in your Cricut Explore Air 2 box, the blue light grip mat. We used it in lesson 1 to cut our sunflower. You can still see it's still on the mat here. The blue light grip mat is the less sticky mat, and it is the best for use with light and medium weight cardstock and vinyl. Okay, now there are 3 other machine mats to choose from. They work on all of the Explorers. The green standard grip mat is stickier than the blue mat, and it's ideal for use with material like vinyl, heavy cardstock, poster board, and more. The green mat is the mat that I use most of the time. When I need a new mat, I'm usually buying this one. The purple mat is a strong grip machine mat, and it's best for use with heavier weight materials like mat board, bonded fabric, chipboard, and thin wood like basswood. It's the stickiest of all 3 of these. And finally, we have the pink fabric grip mat. It's slightly thicker and has a special adhesive on it that's made for gripping fabrics. It will also release your fabric from the mat more cleanly. All of these machine mats come in 2 sizes. The standard 12 by 12 inch, right, this one, and a big 12 by 24 inch size mat, right? Now, I consider machine mats to be a consumable, and they will need to be replaced over time as they'll get less and less sticky as you use them. But you can keep them going for quite a long time by cleaning them with alcohol-free baby wipes when you notice they aren't sticky anymore. I have a video that shows how to do that. When you do it, just be sure to allow them to dry. When they're still wet from being washed, they're not sticky, but once they dry, you'll be amazed at how well it works. So we typically use the big mats for special projects, anything that just won't fit on the regular size mat. I tend not to use it too much. It's pretty big, but when you need it, just know that it is an option, okay? And then of these, like if you have a Cricut Explore 3, which didn't come with the mat, and you're wondering which mat should I get, you can save the 3 of these here for some other time and get yourself a green standard grip mat. This is the middle weight one, and it really works for almost everything. Right? This is my go-to machine mat, and I highly recommend it. Now, I want to remind everybody that the mats come with a cover. So here's the cover, right? It's on here. Keep your cover, just like I told you in lesson 1, at least for the Explore Air 2. You want to put your cover back on your mat after you're done so that it stays nice and sticky and clean, right? So if you lose your mat, if you lose your cover, don't lose your cover. Keep your cover. But if something happens to it, you could use a piece of acetate instead to cover this up. I also want to note that the mats work on either end. So this one, it says the Cricut logo is up here, the type is here, and there's a little hanging tab here. It's got the inches across the top and the side. You might think this is the only end that you can use, but you can indeed flip it around and you can put your materials here and insert it from this end too. And in fact, I recommend that because it tends to spread around your material and it extends the life of your machine mat. So definitely do that, and feel free to move it around as well. Note that there's centimeters on this side, and sometimes I use this as a ruler. When I can't find mine, I just get this out and I use this. So those are our 4 mats, right? So again, in order, we have our blue, let's move this out of the way. We have our blue light grip mat, and then next comes our green standard grip mat, and then our purple strong grip mat, and our pink fabric grip mat, right? Again, if you're only going to get one, get this one. This is my favorite. Okay, so those are our mats. And also, for those of you who didn't see me do this before, I actually really like to store my mats right under my machine. There's like basically there's a place that they'll fit right under here without a problem. So if you ever come to my house, you'll see lots of mats under my Cricut. It doesn't harm anything. It's a great place to store them. Some people also, if they have the Explore 3, they will put them up here, right? Like right here. You can put your mat up there. In fact, this is a great way to put your liner back onto your mat. Let me show you. So this is our fabric grip mat, but all of them have liners. Sometimes it can be tricky to get your liner lined up with your mat, but if you put it into the little, this is really the accessory holder, right? But if you put your mat into here and then put your liner into the bottom of it, I'm going to stand up to do this, right? You put your liner right in the bottom here, and then it lines it right up like this. So it's easier to put your liner back onto your mat nice and neat and clean. Oops, I dropped some mats. Oh well. Okay. Next up is our pen. So here's our pen. All right, the Cricut Explore pens are great for writing on cards, making labels, and embellishing paper crafts. The pens are water-based, acid-free, non-toxic, and permanent after they dry. Now, it's very important to note that the Cricut Explore and Maker pens are sized only for the Cricut Explore's clamp. You cannot use them in a Cricut Joy, and you cannot use the Joy pens in your Cricut Explore. The clamps are different sizes. So when you get pens and markers, make sure they indicate that they're for the Explore or Maker on the box, or they don't say Joy. That's the easiest way because the default is Explore and Maker. They are interchangeable between the Explore and Maker. Now you got a fine point pen in black in your Cricut Explore Air 2 box. The Cricut Explore 3 does not have a pen in it, all right? But you can get them, and there's so many that you can get. I want to show you a few of them so that you know what all the options are. All right, so this is the one that comes with the Cricut Explore Air 2. So, and I also want to note that tomorrow's lesson, we're going to use a pen. So if you have the Cricut Explore 3, I recommend you go out and get yourself a pen. There's some great starter kits that you can get. I am fond of this one right here. Actually, I think I have a better example. Yes, this one here. You're going to get just one set of pens. This is the one to get. This is a multi-pen set, and it comes in black, and it comes in metallic silver and a metallic gold, but black is a good first choice. So it has the fine point pen which is this one right here. It has a glitter gel pen, it has a marker, and it has 2 calligraphy chisel tip markers. So it's got it's got a bunch of different things to it, because Cricut pens and markers come in different sizes and types and colors and all that good stuff. So this is a great one to begin with. And even though I want to note, this says Cricut Explore on it, right? The Explore pens fit in the Maker and vice versa. It's just the Joy that isn't compatible with the Explore and Maker, all right? So if you have a Maker and you upgraded to the Cricut Explore 3, for example, you could use all of your pens and markers. So not a problem. So this is a cool set to have to begin with. So, but you can of course get it in other colors. Here's the metallics here. And then the possibilities explode from there. So I'll show you a few of the ones we have. This is an extra fine point set. This is 0.3 tip. So this is the smallest the pens get. This is pretty fine. And this is the Gilded Forest one. And let's see here. You can also get glitter gel pens and opaque gel pens. The opaque ones are particularly cool because they work great on dark colored materials, black, brown, burgundy. They're beautiful. Here are is a bigger set of glitter gel pens. You can also get, this is the ultimate pen set. You see all these different colors. This is the fine point. They sell them in markers too. So lots and lots of options here. And let's see here. And then this one is a new addition. These are the watercolor markers and brush set. You may have seen my tutorial on this recently. Let me show you what these look like. This is an example of the Cricut. We drew this on the Cricut and then we watercolored it in. It comes with a water brush. This is the water brush, and this is an example. So these fit in your Cricut. All of these pens fit in your Cricut. It is so cool. So your Cricut isn't just a cutting machine, it's also a drawing machine. And so your Cricut draws this, and then you just use the water pen to blend it. It's super cool. So you have to check out that tutorial. All right. And then in addition to all these are all standard water-based pens, right? So, and markers. And there's another class of pens and markers that fit in your Cricut, and that's infusible ink. So let's set these things off to the side here. And I'll show you those. So for anyone who doesn't know what infusible ink is, here we go. Infusible ink is a type of sublimation ink that allows you to transfer it to a sublimation-friendly surface, and it infuses itself right into the surface and doesn't wash out, doesn't peel, doesn't flake, or anything like that. You need high heat to do it, so like a heat press. I'll talk about those later. But there are pens and markers that Cricut sells that you can use in your Cricut, right? They all fit in the clamp, and you can draw awesome things with them. So all sorts of colors. They have markers. Those are also markers. So the 1.0 tip is, you can see it here and here. Those are all markers. They also have pens. The pen has the 0.4 tip on it, right? And here's a whole bunch of black ones because you know everyone needs black. More markers here. This is the neon colors. Sublimation ink can be very bright, so that's really cool. And here's more pens, the nostalgia. So there are tons of colors, lots of pens and markers. They also have freehand markers. So these don't fit in your Cricut, so be cautious if you get these. These won't fit. These are meant for you to draw by hand, right? They also look like this. These have dual tips, right? So if you see these in the store and they say freehand on them, that is for you to use by hand and not work with your Cricut. So, and let me just show you really briefly. We'll put the pen into here. All right, so here is our Cricut Explorer. This is the Explore 3, but it doesn't matter if they all fit the pens and markers. Just, again, make sure you're using the Explore or Maker pens. So here is the pen right here. Looks like this. It says Cricut on it. It's got a little arrow that will help us put it in. It always says the type on the side here, the color, you know, what kind it is, all that. So always check the side if you're not sure what it is. And then on the back or on the end of it, you can see that it actually has, I don't know if that'll focus for us. Let's see if we can get it to focus. Anyways, it says F on the bottom. So for fine. So you can see what it is. So to use a pen, you just open up the clamp here on your Cricut Explorer. You want to take off the cap and you put it in, and I use the arrow in the front. See right there? So, and then you push it in. I like to hold the bottom as I push it in. You'll hear it click, and then you close the clamp. And very importantly, put your cap on your pen so you don't lose it. So it doesn't roll off the table and get lost, because that happens. So I just put the pen cap right back on my pen, and now you can use it to do all of the awesome writing that you want. When you're done, be sure to remove it from your clamp, right? And put your cap back on it, right? And if you want, you can store it right here in your accessory tray. I recommend you store it tip down, okay? And a lot of people ask me how to store my pens, and I will show you how I store them. Let's clear a little space again. We have many things to show today, so I'll be juggling my stuff as we go along. Okay, I like to store my pens, oops, in this here. It is the Tool Caddy. It is sold by the same company that makes the Dream Box, which is the big craft storage organizer behind me. You may have seen me use it in videos. But I can keep all of my pens in here. I store them either on their side like this or tip down. Either way will work. Don't store them tip up though. I think that if you do that, the gravity works against you. All the ink goes down into the bottom of the pen, and then you have to work harder to get it going. So store them on their side or tip down. And I like this in particular because it's really easy to see all my markers. So I tried to separate them out by color. It looks like in a couple places I feel, but we got my metallics over here. But here you can see how on the end it shows you, like, so M is for marker, F is for fine point, G is for gel. There's even GG for glitter gel. So it's really useful so I can see the color and I can see the size. Also, the ones with the white barrel like this, these are regular pens and markers, just regular ink. The ones with the solid color, so not a white barrel, these are infusible ink. So I've got infusible ink here and my regular pens here. These are not Cricut ones. They're just here, so ignore those. And then I got some glue sticks here too. So these two are not, but everything else here is Cricut pens. So this is a great way to store them if you're looking for a way. And I got this over at createroom.com, and it's their Tool Caddy. You can use it for lots of things. I just really like using it for my pens. I can store them in a smaller, place, and I can see really easily at a glance what it is, and they're all being stored in the proper way like this because I keep it on its end like this in my Dream Box. All right, so I think I've got all the pens. And I told you about the watercolor pens, which are so cool. Now the infusible ink pens, I will also, there's some more infusible ink things that work with your Cricut, so I'll tell you about that. Oh, there's also one more pen. It's the fabric washable pen. Let me show you that. Is this it? Yes. All right, let me show you this. Okay, so I mentioned that your Cricut Explorer Air can cut fabric. It does need to be bonded. That means you just need to put like heat and bond or something on the back of it temporarily. It doesn't have to be permanent so that it can stick to the mat, right? So that means that it's useful to have a fabric marking pen, and they have one. So this is the Cricut fabric marking pen. It says washable fabric pen right on it, and it's marker width right here. And this is great for marking your seam allowances or darts when you cut fabric. I use this pen a lot as I love to sew and cut fabric on my Cricut for my projects. So this is a cool pen, and I think that's all the pens. I think I've covered everything. I have one extra one sitting here. This is a glitter. Yeah. So there's really a lot of pens, a lot. I'm sure there's something here I'm missing. I've got a couple here in my tool holder. These ones that have the transparent barrels, they're usually the extra fine points. So if you see those, this is an extra fine point. It's the 0.3 tip, right? Also, you'll note that we made our little tool holder so that you can put the Cricut pens in tip down, as they should be stored. And people always ask me, I do not sell these. Maybe one day we will, but we do share the file, and we share it freely. We don't sell our files. So if you want to make this on a 3D printer like we did, you can. All right, so that brings me to tools. Let's just keep this out. There's a lot of tools that you can buy for your Cricut Explore. Some are useful, some are less so. The ones I recommend you get, the ones that I personally use all the time, are the scraper, which is right here, and the weeding tool, which is right here, and the scoring stylus right here. Okay, let's talk about what each one does. And we're going to need one item here from yesterday too. Here we go. Okay, so scraper, weeding tool, and scoring stylus. These are the three I use the most. All right, so let's talk about them. First, the scraper. And I need to rearrange these things so we have some more space here. One day I'm going to have an even bigger table. I keep upgrading my tables so they're bigger and bigger. But it's like you use as much space as you had. You know how that works? That's better. Okay, so this is the scraper, and the scraper is great for getting all the little bits off your mats. So I have both a little one and I have a big one right here, like this. And now if you don't have a scraper, you can also use an old store loyalty card. Just, an old debit card, something like that. It just needs to have that plastic edge like this. And I want to demonstrate how this works. So we cut this on our Cricut Explore Air 2 yesterday on our mat. So let's remove our mat now. And we can use either one of these scrapers to remove this easily. Yes, you can just sit here and you can pick it up like this. It takes a long time and it's super tedious. So instead, I recommend you use this. And all you do is you just go like this. And you just scrape it all off like this. Super easy and fast. See? So you can use the small one or the big one. It doesn't matter. Let's get that little bit off there. And then put your liner back onto your mat. I didn't know about the scraper in the beginning, and I remember spending a long time trying to pick off each little bit of cardstock. Don't do that. So again, get yourself a scraper, either size. I like the big one because I love to use, or I love to do paper crafts. If you don't have one of these, again, you can just use like a store loyalty card, just one of those plastic credit card like things. They also work well. Okay, let's put this all back. All right, the next tool that I think is very essential is the weeding tool. And this is what a weeding tool looks like. So the weeding tool is used to remove the excess vinyl from a cut, which we call weeding. And this is how you get all those bits out that you don't want. I also use the weeding tool on some intricate paper craft projects as well. So I'll see if I can give you an example. All right, yesterday on the Cricut Explore Air 2, we cut this out of vinyl, right? Now it lifted up pretty well. I would normally, and I mentioned this, I would normally have used a weeding tool to pick the vinyl up, right? But let's say I want to pick up one of these letters here. Now, normally we use this to remove the parts we don't want. So let's say, I don't know, I don't want C, R, and I. I just want the word cut, and I'm going to transfer that to something, right? So I can use the weeding tool to pick up all these little bits, just like this, right? And they just pick it up. It pokes underneath there, does a great job. This is a great time, in fact, for me to tell you about another thing I like. This is a nail polish holder. It's not sold by Cricut. It's sold by a company called Tweaksy. But I like to use it for weeding, and I just put it on my fingers like this, right? And then as I weed and pick things up, I just put it right into here, and the vinyl comes right off. So I can just use this to pick up my letters like this, and then I put them right into here without having to skip a beat. There we go. As I say that, and it doesn't work, but whatever. You get the idea, right? So because normally you have to have a place to put these things, and they can you don't want them to find their way back into your project. So there we go. So I recommend these two things. Actually, they're really useful if you're going to do any kind of vinyl crafting. So this is the weeding tool, and this is just a nail polish holder. See, it just fits on your fingers. It's really easy. It's just silicone. When it gets full or you want to empty it, you just reach inside, get the vinyl, pull it out, and it's good to go. Okay. And by the way, I will show you where you can get all of these things, both the Cricut tools and these more unusual things I'm talking about, at the end of our video today. All right, so now the next item that I find extremely useful is the scoring tool, or the scoring stylus. So this is one of the best accessories I think a new Cricut owner can get, if you're going to do paper crafting, that is. With a scoring stylus, you can make a wider variety of paper crafts. Most of the paper crafts on my blog have some sort of scoring involved. It is a simple tool that makes a big difference in paper crafting. Note that if you don't plan to do any paper crafting, you don't need this accessory. The scoring stylus goes right in the same clamp, I'll show you, as your pen. So you just open this up right here, you put it right in here, and then you close it. And then you can score with it. So both the pen and the scoring stylus go in clamp A, and all your blades, they go in clamp B, right? So that is the scoring stylus. I've had this one for a long time. One more thing that you might find useful is the spatula tool. So this is used for removing materials from your mats. I don't use it as much as the other tools, but it is super useful if you have a lot of very small pieces of cardstock that you need to remove from your mat without damaging them. So this is different than the scraper, where we didn't really care what would happen. This is when you have some delicate cardstock project and you want to remove it without ripping and tearing it, right? So this is useful to have as well. All right. My next tool, this one doesn't fit in my tool holder, is the brayer. So the brayer tool is another one of those optional tools that some people love and others rarely use. The brayer is just a big rubber roller that helps you stick stuff down to your mats for cleaner cuts. Cricut says it's for fabric, but people use it for vinyl and cardstock too. That includes me. If you find you're having issues getting your material onto your mat smoothly, or it's just not cutting that well, the brayer can really, really make a difference. Another tool that I think is very handy to have is the True Control craft knife. Here's mine. It's a little dirty, but it's well loved. This has a razor sharp non-stick blade. You probably saw me using it to open the Cricut box, and the seal's up yesterday. Craft knives are used for doing manual cuts, and sometimes that means a Cricut almost cut all the way through, but it's hanging by a teeny tiny little bit to do a design issue or something, and you can easily cut that with a craft knife. Now, I also have this one here, and this one is special. It's not just a craft knife, but it's actually a 4-in-1 tool where I can change the tip to add special weeding tools. There's 4 tips here. I love this tool, and I use it nearly every day. Now, if you do use the True Control knife, you'll also want a self-healing mat like the one that you see on my desk here. This is not an adhesive mat like the kind you put in your Cricut, but rather an extra thick mat that you can use to cut things with your craft knife. And it's a self-healing mat, which means it's actually made of tiny little pieces of material which are pressed together to create a solid surface. So when you cut on it, the blade actually goes in between the tiny pieces and it separates them rather than cuts into it and damages it. Thus we call it a self-healing mat. I always craft on one of these mats, usually the large one, because I also find it's much easier to keep clean than my normal work surface. And to clean it, I usually just use some rubbing alcohol and it cleans all that gunk off so much better than having to worry about it on my regular desk. All right, so, and then a few other things I think are really useful. This is one of my favorites. This is a pair of magnifying glasses. There's a bunch of different brands. This is the one that I have. You can actually change the magnification here. It comes with a whole little kit and it's got a little LED light on it too, right? So it's great for seeing tiny little things, right? It does look a little funny. I have to see the whole view here, but it works really, really well. So if you've been relying on just, $1 readers from the store to see things, and some of those little cuts can be really small, you will love these. They are awesome. And let's see here. It's other things I sometimes use. When I'm using my True Control knife, I sometimes will use my metal ruler. This is a Cricut one. It's nice. It's got a little handheld, hold on it. Let me show you what it looks like. So metal rulers are good when you are trying to cut like the edge of something, so you can hold it in place, right? It's got a non-slip grip here. So see, it's not moving. So you can hold it in place and then you sort of press against the metal edge to cut. So this is really useful. Cricut also sells a see-through acrylic ruler that looks like this. This is good for other things, for like fabric, sewing projects, anything where you need to see underneath it. But I wouldn't use this ruler with this blade, right? You want to use a metal ruler when you're cutting something. And those are my primary tools. There are other tools, of course, but those are the ones that I use the most, right? All right, so, and I think that leads us to our materials, which we have a lot of here. We're going to do our best to go through them. So, let's see here. Let's make a little space. This is the cardstock from the Cricut Explorer. Let's keep this over here. Okay, so there's a lot of materials that the Cricut Explorer can cut. There are over 100 materials, in fact, that the Cricut Explorer can cut. Everything from paper and vinyl. You can, like I said, you can cut fabric. If you bond it on the back, you can cut thin wood. It's not going to be as good as the maker, but it is possible. I have a couple tutorials on that. So I think that we should start with the cardstock, because generally I recommend that people start learning their Cricut with cardstock. It's inexpensive, it's very forgiving, and so you can feel free to like waste sheets of cardstock. You just put it in the recycling bin, get out another piece. Okay, so I have lots of cardstock here to show you. This is the paper trimmer. This is really useful. It's good if you want to, save your scraps and trim them. That's the biggest reason that I recommend having it when you have the Cricut Explorer. Sometimes you can use it for trimming other things, but generally speaking, most things will fit on your mat. Okay. So, cardstock. There's lots of different kinds of cardstock. We could spend hours talking about cardstock. Most people ask me what my favorite brands are, so we'll start there. I really like American Crafts cardstock. And this here is a pack of 80-pound cardstock, which you can see right here. It usually says on the package. Cardstock is usually described by its weight, which really means its thickness. So 80-pound is a good medium weight cardstock. Another one that I think is good is Recollections brand. And this particular pack, which is a great pack for beginners because it has all sorts of awesome colors in it. This is 65-pound. So it's a little lighter than the 80-pound, but still awesome. So we might call that light cardstock. I usually still call it medium cardstock. So 65 and 80-pound are really quite similar. So this is I also recommend when you're first learning, you get a good pack of different colors like this. Then you have a bunch of things that you can experiment with and learn with, and colors that, different kind of colors. And then of course you can start making things. This is the American Crafts Primaries pack. It says right here what it is. So it's got all of these colors in it. This is a very nice high quality cardstock. I really like it. And Cricut also makes some. They make a lot of specialty papers. So this is, they call it deluxe paper. It's licensed paper. So I find Cricut's cardstock is excellent quality, but it's a little harder, I find, to source it, right? It's not always in stock, that kind of thing. So I don't use it as much as I'd like to. And then another one that I really like, let's see if I can find it, is this brand here, Cardstock Warehouse. I usually buy this one from Amazon. They have a lot of different weights and sizes and colors and finishes. This one is actually of sparkle, so like a glitter. So they have all sorts of ones. Now, if you're looking for patterned cardstock, this is an excellent brand. You can get these packs. I usually find them at Michael's, but they have them in other places as well. And they're printed rather than being solids. Sometimes they have pretty foil. So they're good for certain kinds of paper crafts. Printed cardstock like this is always going to be white core paper. And that means that on the side, if you look at it, its core, its inside is white paper because they're just printing it, right? They can't dye it through and through. On the other hand, solid core cardstock, like this American Crafts cardstock, if you look at the side of it, you can see all of the colors. So that's how you can tell the difference between these two. Generally speaking, I prefer the solid core cardstock. It looks better when you cut it. You don't have the little white edges around your projects, your cuts. And it also is a higher quality cardstock due to the way that it's made. So if you have a choice between them, right? Now you won't have a choice if it's printed. That's just, patterns will just be patterns. But if it's solid, go for solid core. It'll cut better and you'll like the finished look of it better too. All right. This brand is also pretty good, Clear Path Paper. I find them on Amazon. And then some other things that you should know about. Cricut makes what's called smart paper. We mostly only use it on the Cricut Explore 3. It's noted here. You can always use smart materials on any Cricut. Actually, you just need to put them onto a mat. Whereas like on the Explore 3, you don't have to use a mat. Now the thing about this is not normal cardstock. It says smart paper sticker cardstock. So it actually has an adhesive back. So this is great for making cards where you would normally glue something onto it. Instead of having to glue it, you can just peel off the backing and stick it on like a sticker so that you know that there's a difference here. This is not like, say, this stuff. This is just paper. Let me give you an example here of a regular piece of cardstock. Here we go. Regular cardstock just looks like a piece of thick paper, right? Normal on the front and the back, right? It comes in different sizes. Don't let that confuse you. But something like the smart paper from Cricut, it has one side that's adhesive. Okay, so it's great for certain projects, but not most paper craft projects, right? It's pretty specialized. So if you're going out shopping for the tutorial calls for cardstock, probably you don't want this stuff. And other things, other kinds of paper that Cricut makes. Foil poster board, super pretty. Poster board is thicker than, it's a pretty thick cardstock. So I would describe it more like a thin cardboard, and you can totally cut that on your Cricut Explorer. And Cricut makes the best sparkle paper and glitter, in my opinion. They're really nice, high quality cardstocks. They're really, I love this sparkle paper. I mean, look at that, it's gorgeous. So, and these are, they don't have the weight on them, but there are material settings for them in Cricut Design Space. We'll talk about that in lesson 3. And then this is a brand that I don't recommend. Sorry, company. If they get better, I'll recommend them. But right now, I don't. I have problems cutting it, and so do other people that I know. So you'll see this at the store. I'm not saying anything bad about them. I just find that it has some issues with cutting, so I don't tend to use this one. There are plenty of other bad. I wouldn't say it's bad. I would just avoid that one and stick with others. Something else I want you to remember about cardstock is that it really needs to stay in a dry, not humid place. So keep it in your packaging, just like I have, right? Keep it in its shrink wrap, right? If you live in a really humid environment, keep it out of, don't store it in your garage. Keep it in your house with your air conditioning. If you don't have air conditioning and it gets humid, put some of those desiccant packs in a clear tub with your paper to keep the humidity away. And the reason why I make a big deal about it is that humid paper does not cut well. Okay, so always keep your paper nice and dry. Other than that, it's fine and it lasts a very long time. All right, so that is cardstock. Now, let's talk about vinyl. I got some vinyls out. This is just a small sampling of vinyl that you can get for your Cricut Explorer. There's so many different kinds of vinyl. Let's start with the adhesive vinyl. So we can really separate vinyl into 2 categories: adhesive craft vinyl, and that's where it's like sticky on the back. And then iron-on vinyl, also called HTV for heat transfer vinyl. And that's where it does have an adhesive, but it's heat activated adhesive. So you use an iron or a heat press to make it stick to something. Those are the 2 different kinds. I have lots of tutorials on this if that confuses you. But it comes in many different types besides that, right? So this is the most basic one right here. Black premium permanent vinyl. If you had to get one, this would be a great place to begin. This is a basic vinyl that will make awesome signs. For example, if you want to make signs. It is permanent. It says it right there, right? Premium vinyl is basically Cricut's way of saying it's adhesive vinyl, if you ever see that. And the color is always noted here. Now, sometimes the vinyl comes in these clear tubes. Sometimes they come in, other kinds of wrapping. If they come in these clear tubes, I hear a lot of people say they're having a problem getting it out. It does this, right? So if you have that problem, reach in with your fingers and just, kind of move your fingers apart like this so that you're sort of pressing against the sides of your packaging, and then twist it so that it's getting smaller, and then it comes right out. It's a little bit hard to describe as I'm doing it, but hopefully you know what I mean. So put your fingers right into here, spread them apart so that they're pushing against the side, and then twist your tube, and then you can just take the whole thing out. Because sometimes, humidity and heat will make one of the edges sort of stick to it, right? It sticks to like the inside of the tube, so you can just do it like that. So this is adhesive and this is permanent. If you ever are unsure, you can check the back, right? So this will tell you right here, Cricut Permanent Premium Vinyl. This is the liner side, and this is the side that we put onto our project, right? This is the side. So we cut it on different sides. The tutorial will always tell you what side to cut on, but when you're cutting adhesive vinyl, you cut on this side. You don't ever cut on your liner side. This is always for permanent vinyl, or sorry, adhesive vinyl. This is your liner side. All right, and that comes in a lot of different types. You can get it in pretty holographic, and you can get it in textured metallic, and you can get it in glitter. Look at that, that's glitter. There's another glitter here. So all sorts of things. And this one is true brushed, right? So true brushed has a texture to it. It looks kind of like brushed metal. It's really cool. So lots of, I'm sure I'm missing something. There's a lot of different types of vinyl. I do not have all the vinyls. I probably have one of each type, but definitely not one of each color. So those, and you'll see that, see, sometimes they come in this tube and sometimes they're just sort of wrapped, right? So, but typically they, well, like these don't have a cardboard core in them, but these do, right? So it just depends on the packaging. No doubt they'll change it on us again and it'll be different again. But this is how it comes. So if it's in a tube, you can just put it back in a tube to store it. If it comes in one of these, I like to cut off the label and put it into the end of my tube here. So if I forget what kind of vinyl it is, I can just check to see, you know, what the label that I put inside there. That's the best way I found to do that. Now, I also want to note that adhesive vinyl like this does need to have transfer tape to transfer it onto your project. So this one and this one, these two here on the left, they will use regular standard grip transfer tape. Like, oh, I don't have any sitting here. Well, like the, I don't have it to show you, but you would just use regular standard grip transfer tape for these, okay? It's got gray grid lines on it. Now for all four of these, anything that has a texture, right? So this textured one here, the glitters here, the true brushed ones here, you want to use the strong grip transfer tape, okay? It looks like this and it's got purple lines, right? And it says strong grip. It's important to use the right transfer tape with the right vinyl. But if you can't remember, right, and you're stuck, always just get the regular transfer tape. Don't get the strong grip tape. I know it might seem tempting to get because strong grip makes it seem like it'd be better, but don't get that one. I'd made that mistake in the beginning. And instead, just get your vinyl, and if it needs to have transfer tape, strong grip transfer tape, Cricut will include a piece of it in your roll of vinyl. So are any of these open? I hate to open. I'm going to open up this one. I don't like this color anyways. A permanent yes. Okay, so I'll show you if we can get it open. Let's use our knife. This knife is so handy. Oh, wait, maybe I can tear it up here. Maybe not. All right, so I'm just going to trim it right here lightly. There we go. And I also cut them off. I find it so much faster to do this than to try to peel off that little bit of tape. Okay. And yeah, there's yet another one. I really don't like hot pink. You'll notice you see very few crafts of mine that are hot pink. So I don't mind wasting this one. So if you look at the end of the roll, you'll discover that there is a piece of strong grip transfer tape hidden in there. A lot of people don't know this. So if you're ever unsure what kind of transfer tape you should use, check the end of the roll. If you see a piece of strong grip transfer tape here, awesome, use this. If you don't see any transfer tape at all, you should use the regular stuff. I don't know why exactly they put a piece of strong grip transfer tape in here, but my guess is that people struggle so much with it. It was easier for them to just put a piece in there like this. So when people called Cricut and said, I can't get this to work, they could say, just check the end of your roll. You'll find the strong grip transfer tape in there. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I have no idea. So you won't find a piece of standard grip transfer tape in the regular stuff, but you will find the strong grip transfer tape at the end of the textured stuff. This is very bright. Goodness gracious. All right, we'll just set this down here. So that's a little tip for you about vinyl. Okay, let's move on. So in addition to adhesive vinyl, and by the way, you can get this in both permanent and removable. We use permanent mostly, right? Because most of our projects are permanent. But if you want to put your vinyl on a wall, like a drywall, or a kitchen appliance where you know you're probably going to want to remove it at some point, or any surface that might be fragile, you know, you don't want to hurt your surface, use removable vinyl instead. All right, there we go. Okay, so in addition to adhesive vinyl, we have iron-on vinyl. Let's get the regular one out first, and then I'll show you the other ones. This is always a juggling act. Can I take these things down without my tower falling? All right, so this is what Cricut's iron-on vinyl looks like. It's called Strong Bond. It always just says this, an everyday iron-on. This is the basic iron-on. There's a lot of different kinds of iron-on, but if you're just looking for a basic one, this is what you want, right? It'll tell you the color and the size down here. You can, of course, also get it in things like patterns, and you can get pretty holographic, and you can get super pretty and sparkly glitter and mesh right here. This is, sorry, well, whatever, I probably put the label on wrong because it's not showing me what it is. It's blank, in fact. This is a mesh. This is not a mesh. This is more like this is like the sequin type. They actually have a lot. They have mesh. They have mesh that has Mickey Mouse heads in it. They have some iron-on vinyl that's used for like stretchy material. I forget what that one's called. There's a lot of different ones. So for iron-on vinyl, we need to use a heat source to transfer it. So that could be a household iron, or it could be a heat press like the Easy Press or something like that. So that's our vinyl. There's not much more to say about it than that, other than that you really cut it on the side, that the non-pretty side. The pretty side goes onto your mat. So it's in that respect, it's a little different. I will say that I think of the two vinyls, this one is a little easier to work with. So if you're starting out with vinyl, try iron-on vinyl first. It's easier to weed, easier to apply. And this is a great opportunity to note that vinyl comes not just in these rolls like this, but you can also get it. Let's see if I can get this over here without hurting anything. There we go. You can get Smart iron-on, right? So Smart iron-on is what we use with the Cricut Explore Air, or sorry, the Cricut Explore 3 and the Cricut Maker 3 without a mat, right? So if you have Smart iron-on, you don't need a mat with the Cricut Explore 3. It is not made for the Cricut Explore Air 2. Okay, I know that gets a little confusing. So many options. They do make the Smart materials also in Smart vinyl like this, right? And you can also even get things like Smart label. So this is a writable vinyl, and it's good for like making labels and stuff like that. I recommend using the opaque gel pens on this. It looks really, really good. So if you buy this at the store and you don't have a Cricut Explore 3, you can still use it. Just put it onto your mat. Just put it onto a machine mat. But if you have the Cricut Explore 3, right, you can use this without a mat, which is pretty cool. Just like we did yesterday in lesson 1, right? You just put it in there and it cuts. It's pretty awesome. If you have scraps left over, you can put those scraps onto a mat in your Cricut Explore 3 or whatever machine you have and cut them. Okay? It's just that if you want to cut without a mat, you need to have one of the 3 series of machines, either the Explore 3 or the Maker 3, and you need to be using something that's labeled as Smart, right? So, because that just means it essentially has a built-in mat. The mat is the fabric, the liner is thicker than usual. So, and remember that if you have a Cricut Explore 3, it came with 3 full sheets of smart materials. So, let me show you. So here is smart vinyl, right? So this is the kind that you can cut without having a mat. It's thicker. It's pretty thick, right? It's stiffer, less, it's still obviously flexible, but less so. So this is what the smart vinyl looks like. This is the smart iron-on, right? So you'll notice that it's got a shiny side and a matte side. We cut iron-on vinyl. On the dull side, we put the shiny side onto our mat. I explain this in each of my tutorials. You don't have to remember right now. And they also gave you a full sheet of smart paper, which is the sticker cardstock that I mentioned. So you're not going to want to use this for tomorrow's project. Yeah, you want to get some regular cardstock for that, because this has one side that is sticky. Okay, so don't be confused by that. And then you also get a piece of transfer tape. This is what the regular standard grip transfer tape looks like. So note that it has gray on it, whereas the strong grip stuff right here, its writing is purple. That's how you can tell the difference. Gray writing for standard, the regular kind that you want for most things. And then if you want strong, it also says strong grip on it. And this is the purple. The purple stuff is what you use for any textured vinyl, glitter and stuff like that. Okay. And, oh yes. Here's, this is Smart Label. You can get it in white and you can get it in black. And it's available in both permanent and removable. So again, even if you don't have one of the newer machines, you have the Cricut Explore Air 2, you can still use this. You'll just want to put it onto your mat. Okay, so if you go to the store and you buy this stuff because you didn't know what it was, this happens all the time, it's okay. Just trim it on the sides. You'll have to trim it a little bit, maybe not even that much, just a little bit, and you can put it right onto your machine mat and cut with it. Okay, so no worries. And I'm going to put some stuff back here so I can have my cute little vinyl cake again, because I like that. I think it looks so cool. Also, I'll be using this evening when we talk about the Cricut Maker 3's materials. So one moment. I think there was one more thing. Oh yes, this was up here at the top. Pretty good, huh? It's just a bunch of cake plates back here, precariously perched. All right, there we go. Oh, I forgot one. Where does this one go? We'll stick it here. Okay. And then again, these are the things that came with the Explore 3. Okay. Am I missing anything? It's a lot of stuff, isn't it? This is a lot of stuff. There's so much. Oh, yes, there is one more thing I want to talk about. Oh, wait, infusible ink. We missed that. Can't forget that. Okay. So this row in the front here, this is infusible ink. So infusible ink are transfer sheets. So it's, kind of like our pens and markers, but instead of being an ink that you write out or draw or whatever, these are actually transfer sheets that you can cut out. So you can make cool designs, like I have a coaster over here. I can show you. 2 of them. I'll show you both of these. So here is a coaster, and here's another one. So these are using pattern transfer sheets, and we cut them on the Cricut, and then we transfer them to these coasters. Aren't they pretty? So you can do all sorts of designs. You can cut out people's names, whatever, shapes, cute pictures, and then you can transfer them with high heat between 350 and 400 degrees Fahrenheit to sublimation-friendly surfaces. So special items that have a coating, either they have a coating, a polymer coating of some kind, or they're polyester. That's how that works. So, not cotton and stuff like that, but not just regular ceramic. This has a coating on it, but we do all sorts of cool things with them, make t-shirts and tote bags and stuff like that. I have many tutorials on the Cricut infusible ink if you are unfamiliar with it or you're curious about it, what's cool about it is the colors, as you can see, are very vibrant. They're really pretty. There's also no edges. Look, it's just, it infuses right into the surface. So many commercially made items that are available for sale in the stores, they are sublimation. So this is a way for us to do sublimation at home without having to have a printer either. And lots of different colors. So you can get solids like this. So here's some solids. But Cricut also has lots of patterns. So that is the black shapes pattern. So you can see here what patterns they have. And this one is the rainbows pattern. So it's got gradations on it. So you can see here, right? So really cool. There's tutorials on how to use these on my blog, and you can do all sorts of awesome, cool things. And the ink lasts. So long as you're using the right surface, it will stay in there for, for as long as your shirt or your tote bag lasts. It's really neat. It won't crack or fade. So, iron-on vinyl can, over time, eventually, it will crack and will start to peel, right? Now, Cricut says that their iron-on vinyl, when properly applied, will last for at least 50 washes. But still, if you really like that shirt, 50 washes will add up pretty quickly. So, I do have my transfer tapes right here. Here they are. So, anyway, so that's the infusible ink transfer. I have one more thing here to show you too. Just a second. All right, so so this is, oops, let's fix this. This is standard grip. It doesn't say standard grip anywhere in here. This is the normal transfer tape, and this is the strong grip stuff. Okay, so most of the time, this is the one you want to buy. You only need this one if you're doing a bunch of textured stuff. And remember, there's a sheet of strong grip at the end of your roll. So, okay, and then one more material that comes on a roll like this, and it's called party foil. And this is used for making party-related things. That's why it's called party foil. But so it's not a vinyl and it's not adhesive. So people make streamers out of it, glitter out of it, hair bows out of it. It's more like a colored acetate almost, right? It's not see-through. So you will see this sometimes. It's available. But don't confuse this with vinyl because it's not sticky. And then one last thing I want to show you are heat presses. So Cricut makes quite a few different heat presses at this point. We use heat presses for iron-on vinyl and infusible ink. I put them on this little cart here so we could see them. Bring this over a little bit more. There we go. So the old standby is the Cricut Easy Press. This is the first heat press that Cricut introduced, and is still extremely useful. If you need a place to start, this is where I recommend. It is, this one here is I can't quite lift it up. It looks like it's trying to. Anyways, what's cool about this is that unlike your iron, it has a nice big flat surface for doing your designs. It goes all the way up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, so it also works for infusible ink, and it's easier to use. You've got like time and temperature settings on it, so it's really good. So this is the 9 by 9 inch size. There's also a 12 by 10 inch size, which is good for larger designs. Most of the time, the 9 by 9 inch size is all you really need. They also make a mini one. It's very small. It's good for small decals. It's not good for anything big. And I wouldn't recommend it for big infusible ink projects. It is fine for small infusible ink projects though. So it is hot enough for infusible ink. And a hat press. It's curved, so for the bill of your hat. So here's the hat press, and a mug press back here. They also have the Cricut Auto Press, which is much larger and it's not going to fit out here right now. But it's really cool because it auto opens for you. It's super awesome. Cricut also makes lots of things that work with both iron-on vinyl and infusible ink. They have shirts, tote bags, and like that coaster I just showed you, they have ceramic coasters and corkback coasters. So there's a ton of stuff actually. Pillow shams, makeup bags, all sorts of things that you can put both iron-on vinyl and infusible ink on. Now you do not have to use Cricut's blanks at all. You can certainly use other people's blanks, but if you're doing infusible ink, you want to be sure that it is at least 65% polyester, and it should be white or very light colored for your infusible ink. And then if you're doing either iron-on vinyl or infusible ink, I also recommend some heat-resistant tape. This is not regular tape. This is meant for the high heat of an easy press or a heat press. This is the Cricut brand. There are other brands, but be cautious. You really want the blue tape, not another color when you're using infusible ink. All right, let's see. All right, a couple more things. There's really so many things. I can't cover everything. All right, so this is the Cricut Bright Pad. This is a light pad. It's useful for weeding. It turns on. You see? It's got, that's the on and off, and it's got variable. It can get dimmer and lighter, right? So I'll show you what it looks like on the overhead. So it's great for weeding vinyl. That's mostly what people use it for, and you can adjust it. This is the Bright Pad Go. It doesn't need to be plugged in. It charges. There's also a regular Bright Pad. That one has a cord, so it's corded. So this is cool though. So if you're struggling to weed your vinyl, you might find something like this useful. Another thing that's really nice to have if you're having any issues seeing is a Cricut Bright 360 lamp, which I have right here. This is an LED lamp. It swivels 360 degrees. You can easily move it up and down like this, and it's very bright. And it's got both warm and cool temperatures, or you can go right in the middle. So these two things together, combined with your magnifying glasses, and you will be able to see everything. And you will never lose little pieces of vinyl again, or struggle to see your cut lines. So the Cricut Bright Pad and the Cricut Bright 360. I have the floor lamp right here, but they also make a desk lamp version. I love this thing. I actually mostly use it for handwork, like embroidery and stuff at home. I have one sitting, or in the summer, it was sitting on my porch. Now that it's winter and we have all the snow and it's extremely cold, it is not out there. All right, and then one more thing, and this one is just for the Cricut Explore 3 and Maker 3, not for the Cricut Explore Air 2. And that is the Cricut roll holder. So this is useful for putting on the rolls of vinyl when you're cutting on your Cricut Explore 3. It does not fit on the Explore Air 2 or the original Maker. Let me show you. So here is our Cricut. Let me zoom it out a little bit so we can see more. So on the underside, there are these channels here, and they fit right over the channels on either side of the door. So you can just slide them in like this, right? And then you can take a roll of vinyl. Look at this hot pink one out. Well, it should be, it doesn't have to be this. It should be smart vinyl, actually. Let's not use this one. Let's get out this one right here. One moment, I have to open it. It hasn't been opened yet. I usually like to open, here, I'll show you what I'm doing. Sometimes I struggle with, oops, wrong camera. Sometimes I struggle with opening my rolls of infusible ink and vinyl, and I will opt to open them from the bottom, right? I find that sometimes it's just easier to get into, though I don't think I'm gonna be successful at this one. So nope, let's open it from the top. So they like seal it really well. So your True control knife is a lifesaver. It's like sealed on all 3 sides. Like, I get it. You don't want it to be opened or fall out or whatever. But my goodness. So use your knife to get these things open. And there's like a plastic tab there. I'm just going to rip that. I just don't even care. You don't have to store it in this plastic either. Okay, so here it is. This is a roll of smart vinyl. This is just regular. This is permanent vinyl, as you can see right there it says. Okay, so to use this, we've got our roll holder, and you would just put your, we want to cut this, our regular vinyl on this side, and it goes right into here. Didn't get to do this. Right? I'm not doing that right. Yes, yeah, that's right. Sorry, I'm going from the top. So it goes right into, feeds right into here and right under your guides. See how it goes right under your guides like this? And then, as always, goes right up against your rollers. And then you can keep it on the roll, which is useful. So that, because like a lot of times we end up having to cut the whole thing, and then we have these strangely sized scraps. So if we're using the roll holder, we can just put it right under here. And then when you're done, there's a built-in cutter, whatever, little trimmer right here. And I'll demonstrate for you. So you would just go like this, and it cuts your piece of vinyl off for you, right? So it's really useful if you like to use rolls of vinyl. It works with either permanent vinyl or iron-on vinyl. Or sorry, adhesive vinyl or iron-on vinyl. Any kind of roll of vinyl that's smart. It works with this smart vinyl. And that's why we don't use it on the Cricut Explorer Air 2 or any of the older Explorers, because they don't use smart materials, right? This is specifically for the Maker 3 and the Explorer 3. You can still keep your vinyl on a roll. You just put it onto your mat. You just don't cut it off at the end. Like, I've done that all the time. I don't know about you, but there's no reason why you can't do that. If you just want to keep it on the roll, you can do that. All right, so this is a lot of stuff. It's a lot. I'm always overwhelmed just talking about all these things, getting them all out for you and arranging them for you. And that leads me to go into what might be the most important thing that I want to talk to you about today, which is that you really don't need what should you not be worrying about when you're a Cricut beginner, because you don't need all these things. Okay, you just don't. So first, you really don't need replacement fine point blades. Use my aluminum foil ball trick to keep your blades sharp and clean. Okay. Second, you don't need to have every color and type of vinyl or cardstock, even though you might be tempted. I get that. I recommend you buy your supplies on a project by project basis to avoid stockpiling too much and getting overwhelmed. Okay. You just don't need it all. Third, you don't need to try all the different types of materials. Again, pick one. I recommend a paper craft first. Do it, finish it, and then move on from there. It's really important to stay focused for success. I've seen many people, they see all these things that Cricut puts out, and sometimes I think that people collect the supplies, and the more they collect, I find the harder it is for them to actually start making, because it becomes like, oh, I have to have all of these things, and it's really overwhelming to have them all. And you don't, instead of putting your focus on making a thing and getting just the things you need to make it, instead your focus is on collecting all the things. So please do me a favor and don't do that. I know, I'm sure Cricut wants you to buy all their stuff. That's how they make money, of course. And that's not to be faulted. We want them to do well in business, so they keep innovating and making awesome new equipment for us and supporting it, right? So I highly recommend supporting the companies that you believe in. That's what I do. I believe in Cricut. But don't do it at the expense of yourself. You don't buy all the things just to have them. It also is not necessary to get Cricut branded things if that's not what's available to you, if it's not what you can afford, or not what's right. There are certainly things I get. For the most part, I do I do get Cricut branded things, but it's not because I feel like I have to or anything like that. I'm certainly not. It's because those are the things that I like, because I've tried lots of different things. The only times that you'll see me not using Cricut brand is when I don't like it for whatever reason. For example, their sticker paper is too thick and it gets stuck in my printer. I'm not the only one, so I use Avery sticker paper, stuff like that. If I can't find the vinyl in the color I want, I will use Oracle or I will use Caesar, right? Those are both excellent brands of vinyl. Cardstock, obviously I'm using all different sorts of brands. What's most important is don't get it the cheapest. Get the one that works. That's going to save you time and money and sanity in the long run. When it comes to mats, I do always use Cricut. I have tried the others. I do not like them. So I recommend the Cricut mats. I've never tried non-Cricut blades because I don't have to, because I keep mine clean. I'm trying to think of what other things I've tried that aren't Cricut. I've tried other pens and markers, but in the end, I always prefer Cricut because I know they'll always fit. There's something to be said for getting the brand that's made to go with your machine because you know it fits, right? So there's that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I've used other heat presses. I generally prefer Cricuts, but Cricut doesn't make every heat press that I need either, right? So there's, they still have a ways to go. There's still more they could make. Heaven help me in 3 years when they have many more things. But again, I don't want you to be overwhelmed. What I'd prefer you do is I just wanted to give you an overview of the different tools and supplies that are out there in this ecosystem of Cricuts and beyond, really, so that you know, so that you have an idea of what's possible. But I really want you to pick a project. I have lots and lots of Cricut beginner projects on my blog. Most every project I have is suitable for beginners. In fact, that's my favorite kind of project. I like to help those who are just learning. The people who are experts, they don't need my help. They're fine on their own. So most of my projects are good for beginners. Start with a paper craft project unless you really aren't interested in those. And if you're not, try an iron-on vinyl project and get just the supplies and tools you need for that one project. Don't be tempted by everything else. Stay focused on that one and you will have more success. You won't like break the bank getting all the things. It's more satisfying. You get your stuff, you make your stuff, you finish, you have a project. It's awesome. This is the way to success. This is the way I do it. I don't have everything here. I have a good collection of things because I've been doing it for a while, but I don't attempt to collect everything at all. I would never do that. That's crazy. It's insane. All right. I forgot to tell you where I have all these things. I said I would do it. So I'm going to actually hop over to my webpage so I can show you, because some of these things are a little unusual. Cricut stuff you can find without a problem. I also have a discount code, so let's do that. So if you would like to find the things that I have mentioned in this video, you can. So you'll just want to go over to, I'm going to go to my web browser. You see that? Yes. All right, you want to go to jennifermaker.com. Oops, that's not right. /Cricut discount. I can type, I promise. All right, so this leads you to a page that's a bunch of different things on it. First, at the top, it has my 10% discount code, which is good for the Cricut shop. Okay, so it's good on materials, accessories, and supplies. It doesn't include anything with a cord, so no machines or heat presses, right? The code is currently make more, but it's going to change any day now. So come to this page to see what the current code is. And then you can click right on this yellow button, which is my affiliate link. So if you order from my from this link, we earn a small commission, but it doesn't cost you anything extra, right? It's just, that's the way affiliate works. You don't have to use that. It's totally fine if you don't, but you can use my code anytime you want. They're not connected. Do whatever you want. It's not a big deal to me is what I'm trying to say. All right, so you can get a 10% discount. So it's good for vinyl, fusible ink, all the hand tools I showed you and stuff like that. But if you scroll down on this page, you will see the links to more of the tools that you can use with your Cricut. So the magnifier glasses, the weeding ring that I showed you, this literally just links to a package of Reynolds aluminum wrap. And then yesterday in lesson 1, I told you about the Bluetooth adapter, the USB extension cord, and then the adapter for the Explore one. So everything is linked here. And you can click on this link to go right to Amazon, and it's got all of those things right here. So if you like to shop on Amazon. So that's where you would find that. So again, it is at, well, Maker Academy. It doesn't work either way. makeracademy.com/Cricut discount is how you find that. Okay, so if I missed anything or if new things come out, I promise I will tell you about it on my YouTube channel. If you have any questions about tools, accessories, and supplies used for the Cricut Explore 3 or the Cricut Explore Air 2, please let me know. Leave your question below this video, or better yet, come ask in our Cricut Crafters group at jennifermaker.com/CricutCrafters, where you can get help and guidance from over 500,000 Cricut crafters just like you and me. Now, if you also want to learn about the tools used for the Cricut Joy and the Cricut Maker, because they are quite different, I have lessons on those cutting machines tools as well. You can get links to those classes at CricutKickoff.com. Now, tomorrow I'll be back for lesson 3, where we will dive into design space on my computer and on an iPad and on an Android tablet. I will show you all the important things that you can do, and then we'll do a simple and fun project together using the basic cardstock and the pen that came with your Cricut Explore Air 2. So if we didn't get it at Cricut Explore Air 2, you'll want to get a pen and a piece of cardstock for this project. And that's all for today. Until next time, or in our next class, this is Jennifer Maker reminding you to craft a life you love.